So what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? So I wanted to take a minute to speak on a guy by the name of Draymond Green. I told y'all I was going to start speaking a little bit about sports, a little bit more, and we're in the new year, so this is my first video in regards to that. But I wanted to take a minute to speak on this new media thing. I've never been fooled at all. From the moment that Draymond Green started doing his podcast or whatever the case may be, he's never fooled me. Alright? When he started talking about this new media thing, and that's why we have to be careful what we listen to, y'all. When he started talking about this new media and this new perspective of people who are actually currently playing the game or whatever the case may be, I already knew what he was getting at by saying shit like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, the thing about this new media, for those of you who follow sports or whatever the case may be, the thing about this new media is there is no subjectivity to it. Alright? For instance, Draymond Green himself, the person who tagged or coined the phrase new media. Draymond Green, if you go back to 2016, him and LeBron James did not particularly like each other. Okay? They really basically couldn't stand each other. He actually got suspended for getting into it with LeBron James for calling him a bitch in the finals. Alright? I want y'all to understand something. This is what I mean by there's no subjectivity and it's very selfish. All of a sudden, Draymond Green, remember back then in the off seasons or whatever the case may be, and pardon me if my voice start cracking or whatever, I've actually lost my voice a couple times today. But back in 2016, even in the off season, you would see them wearing T-shirts and trolling each other. LeBron James wore a T-shirt that said "The Ultimate Warrior" or whatever the case may be, and Draymond. But what happened was Draymond signed to Clutch Sports, which everybody knows is basically LeBron James' management and agent company. All right, Clutch Sports. And all of a sudden, he just started heaping this praise on LeBron James and talking about how he's the greatest player of all time and all of this stuff. So I want y'all to understand why I say there's no subjectivity and there's no honesty to it. Because this man knows that by heaping this praise and anybody that he can flip into believing that LeBron James is the greatest player of all time, and I disagree with that, but it doesn't really even, what I'm saying doesn't even matter whether you believe LeBron James. I just want y'all to understand what's out here. The ulterior, not even the ulterior motive, his motive is to add value to his accomplishments. If I can convince people that LeBron James is the greatest player of all time because of the strength of what this era is that I play in, it heightens my accomplishments. Things like I beat the greatest player of all time in the finals 3 times. Things like in 2016, I was probably, until I got suspended, and then we lost Game 6 and Game 7 after my Game 5 suspension, I was probably about to be the finals MVP. That heightens it. There's nothing in order to heighten your legacy. You say things like this. You say things like LeBron James is the greatest player of all time to be doing what he's doing, and you don't even add the real life factors that assist these points. The fact that back in the early 2000s, there were rule changes that were implemented in order to make it basically impossible to play defense on somebody because you're going to, if you touch them, you're going to foul them. That it's harder to play defense, therefore making it easier to play offense because you can't touch nobody. You can't get physical with nobody or whatever the case may be in today's NBA, which is basically like playing practice. It's like when you go to an NFL practice, anybody in a red jersey, whether it's the quarterback, kicker, whatever, you cannot hit that player in practice. This is what's going on the NBA court nowadays, if we're being real honest. Now, granted, scoring 40,000 points is still a tough feat, and it takes longevity and staying healthy. All of that. It's still a tough feat. But it's also made precipitously very easy compared to some of the things we've seen in the 90s, the 60s, the 70s, where they used to get into full-on fights and continued to play the game, where people used to basically tackle people. And sometimes it wasn't even called a foul, a common foul. Now you brush somebody's head and it's a flagrant foul. So they get 2 shots in the ball back. These are the things that we're talking about when we're saying, yo, I don't know how valid I can make it if he passes Kareem. Now, if he passes Kareem, I still hesitate for somebody who watched the game through the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and even now. I question that. So, in other words, what you are seeing with a Draymond Green, you're seeing someone who is not being very. You're seeing someone who's being very disingenuous for his own selfish reasons. And it is what it is. Show off.